and welcome everybody to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about Speak Up Indiana. We're excited to share some great information about the Speak Up survey, but first I'm going to do just a couple of quick housekeeping items and announcements. Everyone is muted. You all should have been muted when you came into the call, except for our presenters. Please keep yourself muted so that we limit the background noise and the distractions that can cause. Please use the chat box throughout the call to either ask questions or share ideas or things that you've done. If you've participated in the Speak Up survey in the past and you have some suggestions or ideas, please feel free to share those in the chat window. That is there and available throughout the whole call. Make sure that you select everyone from the Send To drop-down. It defaults to just send messages to me, and we want everybody to be able to see your questions and your comments. The presenters may answer questions as we go through the call, but if there are any questions that don't get answered throughout the presentations, we will have a little bit of time at the end to answer any new questions that come up or any that remain from the presentations. Just real quick, some upcoming professional development opportunities that we have. We have another webinar tomorrow on augmented reality. So if that's something that interests you or you think would interest some people in your school, please jump into that webinar tomorrow, same time, same place. And then in a couple of weeks, the first week of November, we're going to have a webinar on technology and reading instruction. And I'm still working on getting the presenters scheduled for that. So there's not information on the website on that one yet, but that will be coming very soon. Our fall book club just is starting this week. We're reading Kids Deserve It, Pushing Boundaries and Challenging Conventional Thinking by Todd Neslony and Adam Welcome. Please look into that as an opportunity for professional development and PGPs if that's something that you are needed or interested in. Also, please pass that on to your staff. And even though we started this week, it's not too late to join in. You can even join in week number 2 or 3, depending on when you get the book and when you're ready. So look into that opportunity. And then Twitter, we connect with the education community via Twitter, and we encourage you all to connect to each other using the INELearn hashtag. And we also have Twitter chats every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, and this week is training versus coaching. And that's about how to avoid leading with the technology while helping teachers understand how to navigate and use technology tools. So join that discussion every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. And with that, let's jump into our conversation for the day. We're talking about the Speak Up survey, and we are, I believe this is going to be our 5th year participating in the Speak Up survey. We are really excited to have been partnering with Project Tomorrow to be able to collect this wonderful data that's used at the national and the state and the school level. And today we have 3 presenters. We've got Julie Evans, who is the CEO of Project Tomorrow, who they do the Speak Up survey. We have Susan Drum, who is the instructional technology coach at Hamilton Southeastern Schools, and Mike Bodorf, who is the Director of Technology at Nineveh Hensley Jackson United School Corporation. So I am going to pass it on to, I'm going to pass the mic on to Julie and let her talk about a little bit on the national end and what Speak Up is.
Thank you so much, Mary. Can everyone hear me okay?
We can. Thanks, Julie.
Wonderful. Well, I am so thrilled to have this opportunity to talk to all of you in Indiana. As I said in the chat box, at Project Tomorrow, we have a very special place in our heart for Indiana. I'll explain why in just a moment. But let's get into some of the information about Speak Up 2016 and what you might need to know if you are planning on participating with us this year. So we're going to answer a number of different questions, some in a little bit more detail than others, but please know that in addition to having this particular session being recorded, we also have the opportunity to provide you with this deck in case you need it in your school or district. Go ahead, Mary. So let me start off telling you a little bit more about Project Tomorrow. We are an education nonprofit group. We've been around since 1996. We have a particular focus on digital learning and the impact of students' experiences, as well as their teachers and their administrators and their parents, with different sorts of digital tools on the education process. Go ahead. We're probably best well known for the Speak Up Research Project, and this is a project that we've been doing since 2003. And it's a very interesting research project for a couple different reasons. We use online surveys. I also have the wonderful pleasure of doing between 30 and 40 focus groups a year with students, teachers, and parents. But our primary data collection vehicle is an online survey. We also make those surveys that we create and we facilitate for you available to any K-12 school or district that wants to use them. So we're facilitating this process for you, but we don't pre-select or only invite certain schools and districts. The reason we do that is because our primary reason for doing Speak Up is that it is a service that we provide as a nonprofit to schools and districts. We do not charge anything for any part of the process, and we also give back to all the participating schools and districts their own locally collected data with state-level data and national data for benchmarking. As I said, there is absolutely no charge for any of this. This is our free service that we provide to schools and districts. Now, we take the national data and we share it every year with Congress, the U.S. Department of Education, many think tanks and research organizations to inform their work. But as I said, our primary goal is to work directly with schools and districts. Since we started Speak Up in 2003, we've had about 4.5 million online surveys that have been submitted to us, making Speak Up the largest collection of authentic feedback from students, educators, and parents about digital learning ever assembled. Go ahead, Mary. So we partner with all sorts of different organizations that I'm sure you're familiar with, and that is a statement not only to the quality of the work that we do, but also about their interest in facilitating Speak Up to more schools and districts. So you will, of course, hear from your good folks at the state about Speak Up, but if you are a member of COSN or a member of ISTE, you might also hear from them as well. Go ahead. We can go to the next slide. I don't know if we lost the connection.
I've advanced.
Okay, it didn't show up on mine, but that's all right. I can keep talking, so we're good. So quite often on the survey, folks will ask us, so what type of questions are on the Speak Up survey? So they are around learning and teaching the technology. We ask different questions of different audiences, but we ask all of the stakeholders to talk to us about how they are using different types of emerging technologies to support learning. Go ahead to the next slide, please. Quite often, folks will say to us that one thing that they like about Speak Up, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Susan and Michael about their thoughts, is that it gives them a reality check on some of the assumptions, mythology, or anecdotes that people may carry around digital learning. And again, we have the opportunity to poll your students, teachers, parents, school site administrators, district administrators, librarians, technology coordinators, communications officers, as well as community members. So I mentioned that we ask folks what they're doing with emerging technologies. We also ask them about their attitudes or values associated with that, as well as their aspirations for using technology more effectively. Go ahead, Mary. So included in this deck, though we're not going to go through it here today, are some examples of some of the data that's collected from Speak Up. So if you needed to look at some examples of the data that we usually collect, you can take a look at that right there. So go ahead, Mary. Just so that you have a perspective, last fall we collected about 505,000 surveys nationwide, and you can see the breakdown there of the different audiences. We did have about 7,800 schools and 2,600 districts participate, and that included a broad range of urban, rural, and suburban districts, Title I schools, majority-minority schools, making the Speak Up data not only the largest collection of data, but also very representative of the nation at large, and also giving the opportunity to generalize about some of the findings. Go ahead, Mary. So we, of course, as I said, we have a special place in our heart for Indiana, and that is because, and folks, I don't know if you know this, but Indiana was our #1 state for participation in Speak Up 2015 with over 100,000 surveys submitted. So big round of applause all over for our good friends in Indiana. Go ahead, Mary. In addition to that, I wanted to recognize a couple of districts that had very high participation as well. We love all of our superstar districts in Indiana, but did want to give a shout out to these folks that had very high levels of participation. Go ahead, Mary. So as I said, a couple different bits and bytes of data here. We're just going to walk through these, Mary. I'm not going to talk about these. This, again, is to give you the opportunity so that you can see what some of the data looks like. We poll students about their access to different types of mobile devices. You can move ahead. We ask parents about their interest in digital learning, what some of their frustrations are. Go ahead. We also ask lots of different questions of teachers, and this is a really interesting slide that we've been actually doing over the last couple of years. We've been polling teachers about their use of digital content. In this particular slide, we're comparing national data to Indiana data. We also have data where we compare 2012 to 2015, though that's not represented here. Go ahead. Next slide, please. And then also, I love this particular slide, and I have to give a shout out to Indiana on this slide, because initially this question was one that came from your state Department of Education, your folks in your e-learning department, and we ended up using it as a national question. So what do teachers say they need to use digital content more effectively? So congratulations to not only the good question work, but the nice partnership. Go ahead, Mary. So quite often what happens is that what Speak Up gives you an opportunity to do is to be able to help your stakeholders. That might be your teachers, it might be parents, it might be administrators, it might be the members of your school board or your local community. Look beyond what they think they see as the benefits of digital learning to really imagine what learning could be. And so I think that's a pretty powerful message. And again, the opportunity to participate in the national process. Go ahead, Mary. So Speak Up this year will open up next week. As I mentioned before, we will have the online surveys open. They will be open until the middle of December, almost the third week in December, right before the winter break. We will have surveys again for K-12 students, parents, teachers, librarians, school site and district level administrators, technology leaders, community members, and communications officers. And there's a lot more information on our website. I'll talk about that in a moment. Go ahead, Mary. So as I mentioned, we share the results at the national level. We also share those results at the state level. Go ahead. But the most important thing is that we are giving that information back to you. And so in early February, the first week in February actually, you'll receive notification of an online report where you get to look at every single question that was asked, see which of your stakeholders chose those different responses, and see how it compares to state-level data as well as national data. Lots of folks tell us that that comparative analysis is one of the most valuable aspects of Speak Up. Go ahead. So let's talk a little bit about the whys and hows, because I think that's important. Now, I'm going to give you sort of my perspective. I know that Michael and Susan might have some additional insights into that as well. Go ahead, Mary. So why should a school or district participate in Speak Up? Well, this is based on our work with schools and districts across the country. So I'll give you just a couple snippets here. This idea of being able to get authentic feedback from your stakeholders and not have to rely upon myths or anecdotes or hunches or assumptions that people make. It's also highly valuable that we, Project Tomorrow, are a recognized nonprofit organization. So we are not the district asking these questions. We're not the state. We're not a vendor. We're not trying to sell anything. We're also not the federal government. We're not even a membership association. So in many cases, folks refer to us as that unbiased guardian of their data. All of your data collected is 100% confidential to you. We do not share data from any schools or districts with anyone. We also don't even share names of schools and districts with anyone unless those folks have given us permission to do that in advance. So I think that's pretty interesting as well. We're also not in the ranking business, not in the gotcha business as I call it. So you're not going to see a list of these are the best districts or these are the worst districts. No sort of comparatives like that. The other thing that I think is really important to understand about Speak Up is, once again, there is absolutely no fee for participating. But in addition to that, the other costs associated with it is that we do all the work for you so that you don't need to use your precious instructional dollars to do this sort of data collection. Again, this is a service that we provide. Go ahead, Mary. So how do folks use the data? Again, we'll hear from Susan and Michael about maybe some of the ways that they've used the data. We hear things such as this. Folks will use their Speak Up data as input into new planning, maybe a new digital learning plan, maybe to justify certain decisions or to inform those new initiatives. Some folks actually use the data as an evaluation tool year over year to be able to get that sort of comparative. Lots of folks have been using their data for fund development, for proposals. Lots of federal proposals these days include Speak Up data. I'm always impressed when schools and districts are using it for professional development as well, to be able to introduce their teachers or their administrators to some different perspectives. Of course, by participating in Speak Up, your data is part of the national collection of data that we share with Congress and the U.S. Department of Education. So directly, you're having a voice in policy decisions as well. Go ahead, Mary. So the next parts are kind of what you need to know and to do to get started. So we're going to go through these really quickly. All of this information is on the website, and if folks have questions at the end, we can take a look at it. So a couple key things. All of your schools and districts are already registered. You don't need to put that information in. It's a good idea for there to be a contact person per school or district or at the district level so that we can give you information. Go ahead, Mary. That information might include weekly updates from us on your participation numbers. It also can include that link to that report that we're going to send you in February. But basically, there's a URL that you're going to promote to your audiences. You decide who you would like to have participate in the survey, and then they come on to that page and they click a button. If they're a student, they click the student button. If they're a teacher, they click the teacher button. Go ahead, Mary. We also have a special page set up for Indiana, and so we'll be populating that with very specific state information, including this PowerPoint deck here, so you can use that. You can share that with your stakeholders. Go ahead, Mary. And then finally, I want to introduce you to, go ahead, Mary, who's going to be your new best friend for Speak Up 2016 in particular, and that's the amazing Jenny Hossard, who is our Speak Up Operations Manager. She works directly with the schools and districts all around the country, giving them the information they need, hand-holding them through the process if they want that type of support, doing special disaggregations of their data for them if they want it. Jenny is absolutely amazing and super responsive. Quite often we will have people accuse us when I'm out talking about Speak Up that all of our staff is named Jenny. Isn't that unusual? Because they feel there's no way that one person could be so responsive. We must have multiple Jennys on our team. But in fact, we have one Jenny. She has a number of folks that work with her, Lisa and Tessa. Please feel free to contact Jenny if you have any certain questions. So Mary, we can just walk through these other ones really quickly, and then we can turn this over to the rest of the team. Visit us, folks, at tomorrow.org. We have tons of resources that are available. There's FAQs, there's lesson plans, there's step-by-step guides in terms of how to participate. And again, Jenny is there to help you in any way. Go ahead, Mary. So I think we'll probably save questions to the end if people have some specific questions. But of course, we're very happy to be here and always happy to support our good friends in Indiana. So with that, Mary, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Julie. Lots of great information. This is, again, we're really excited to be partners with you guys, and this is, like you pointed out a couple of times, a great free opportunity for schools to collect a lot of information. And so now we're going to hear from two schools who have been strong participants in years past in the survey. And first, I'm going to turn it over to Susan Drum from Hamilton Southeastern.
All right, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, thanks, Susan.
Can hear me? All right. Well, I have to say this is the first time I've spoken in a webinar, so we'll see if I don't push any of the wrong buttons or whatever. I hope this works. But I heard Julie just fine, and Julie, I feel like it's kind of an honor to hear you in person because I followed your work for a very long time. I used Speak Up when I was a librarian back in the early 2000s, and what I'm going to talk about today, though, is our district's experience with Speak Up in 2014, in the fall of 2014. So just a little bit about our district. We are a suburb of Indianapolis. We're called Hamilton Southeastern Schools, but we're in Fishers, Indiana. And we're the fourth largest district in Indiana. I think that has some bearing because it's awfully difficult to get a corporation or an organization this size to all do the same thing in a short amount of time. And we all took the Speak Up survey. So my goals here are just a little bit to tell you why we took this project on, how we accomplished it, and what we learned from it. So why take the time? Back in 2011 and 12, there were a group of us in the district who were very interested in moving our teaching and learning more into the 21st century. A part of that would be digital learning. And frankly, we needed data. We needed data to inform what became our best practice model. You know, we thought we knew what we needed, but we needed hard evidence. We needed data to open the eyes of stakeholders because, frankly, our district is a high-performing district, and there are many sides of the aisle, kind of, who were saying, well, it's not broke, why fix it? So we needed data to help our school boards see, to help our teachers see, to help our administrators see, and frankly, especially to help our parents see that we needed to make some moves toward more e-learning and best practice instruction. So here's the third reason. We received a digital learning grant from the state of Indiana, and one of the requirements of that large grant was that we participate in Speak Up. So Mary, I don't know if you want to pass on to Candace and your team, but having Speak Up as a requirement gave me the leverage that I needed, honestly, to get all of the buy-in. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, so if you are in a district and you are interested in using the Speak Up survey, here are some things that made it successful for us. First of all, even though the state of Indiana told us we only had to survey 50% of our students, and we have 21,000 students, our assistant superintendent for teaching and learning made it mandatory. So we have things we call fixed and we have flexible. Since we have 21 school buildings, some things are fixed from the district level, some things are flexible. Speak Up for us in the fall of 2014 was something that was fixed. And so every principal knew that they had this certain window of time and they had to take all their students through the computer lab because we were not one-to-one at the time and give the Speak Up survey. So that really honestly helped. Having a point person at the district level, that became me just because I had used Speak Up in the past as a librarian. Having that district point person helped a lot. I went, let's see, my sort of chain of contact, I went to each media specialist. So we have a media specialist in each building, elementary, intermediate, junior high, and high school. I would send updates, I would send different things to the media specialist and they were the point persons in their buildings to make sure this project got accomplished. That seemed to work really well. So I sent information to the administrators, and then I sent the how-tos to the media specialist. I got, I don't know if it was Jenny or Lisa or someone would send updates from Speak Up every couple of weeks, it seemed like, about how many people in our district had taken the different surveys. So I sent these updates on, and it kind of became a little bit competitive between the schools, honestly, in a good way. So let's see. So I guess from this slide, the important thing that I would take away is that it's very important to have people in your district who are owning the project, someone at the district level and someone in each of the school buildings to make sure it gets done. Okay, Mary, I'm going to move on. All right, going back to why I said we did the Speak Up survey to begin with, we needed data. Data has mattered to us in many ways and times, and so we got data at the building level, we got data at the district level, and we were able to provide some data to the state and national levels. The only thing I'll say about that is that I feel there's a little bit of a responsibility on our part to help give data to the state and national levels. If we're trying to build this in our district, we need to help supply data to the state and national people who are in our camp. So there's that. After we got all of our Speak Up data, which ended up being incredible, I separated it all, sent it out to each building, and to be honest, I don't know, I'm sure I have no idea to the full extent of what each building did with their data. There was a lot of quantitative data. There were also a lot of qualitative answers. There were written text box answers. I separated all those out, sent them to the schools, and they used it in parent meetings. They used it, I'm sure, in professional development. At the district level, what the Speak Up data did for us is convince our school board, or at least it was one element that helped convince our school board and our parent community, or our Fishers Learning community, that yes, this is really happening. Our students really are digital natives. They really are living their lives in a different way, and we need to get on board. So, we still go back to that data every once in a while when we just need information. And I'm very much hoping I can get the district on board to do this again. It's the only hindrance is time. And no other survey other than Speak Up could give us the amount of rich, deep data that Speak Up gave us. And that's about all I have to say. Mary, back to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Susan. And, I like her point that, sometimes we don't see, like, what's happening right in front of us. Sometimes we don't realize how it really is. So to see that anonymous data coming in from a survey, could be really telling and kind of contradict what especially the community might be seeing or not seeing. So thank you for that great information. And I'm going to now turn the mic over to Mike.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, so as Mary said earlier, I'm Mike Bottorff. I am Director of Technology for Nineveh Hensley Jackson United School Corporation, otherwise more commonly known as Indian Creek Schools. And this is our, last year, I guess, was our second consecutive year of fairly heavy participation in the Speak Up survey. We started in 2014 and then last year again in 2015. And I was not with the district in 2014, but I have quite a bit of background on what we did last year for the Speak Up survey. Mary had asked that we focus on how did we get the word out and get the participation high, and why were we doing it, and then I'll also try to connect that to some tangible outcomes that we're pursuing as a result of what we discovered from that data. So, Mary, if you're going to the second slide, I just have 2 slides. It's more bullety, and it's not quite as slick-looking as Susan. So how did we get this done? So I'll also provide some context. So our school district is somewhat smaller than Hamilton Southeastern. It is approximately 1,800 students. We are also kind of in the Indianapolis area, but we're in mostly in South Johnson County in a fairly rural area. And so we did not quite have the same challenge in getting all of our school buildings on board in participation. We just have 4 schools. So that was somewhat easier, but one of the big challenges for us, being a somewhat geographically spread out school corporation, was getting parent and community involvement. So a lot of our efforts in getting the word out to people and encouraging responses was focused on those people. So as you can see in the bullets I've had here, how did we reach out to people? And we utilized these methods over the entire course of the survey, so probably about 2 months or so. And so, first of all, obviously, we posted it on our corporation website, and we left it up there on the main page for the entire survey time. And we also posted it. Each school has their own individual page, and we had it posted there. We also utilized our automated notification system. So we sent out, I think, 2 different emails, once each month, with a link to remind folks to go ahead and respond to the survey. And then towards the end of the time period, we also sent out a notification via phone to encourage people to respond. We also sent messages using our student information system, which it says on the slide there, campus iMessages. Our student information system is called Infinite Campus. So that's effectively a messaging tool within the student information system that goes to both students and parents. We also included the information and the link in our weekly school newsletter. So each school included it in their newsletter throughout the time that the survey was open. We have a reader board outside of our high school, which has scrolling notifications and advertisements and announcements, and so we included it there. And our assistant superintendent was also able to work with the local newspaper, which is in Johnson County, it's the Daily Journal, and get a brief article written up about the Speak Up survey and about how important it was as a part of our planning process. And so some additional context, as Susan mentioned, for Hamilton Southeastern, I'll provide some for Indian Creek. We are a one-to-one school corporation, or at least last year we were one-to-one in grades 5 through 12. And this year we're one-to-one in grades K through 12. And part of the article we put in the newspaper, and as well as all of our publications regarding the Speak Up survey, was the importance of getting that community input to make better decisions about how we were using our one-to-one devices in the classroom, what our student and family needs were in terms of technology education or internet access at home, and to provide that feedback. So we emphasize that, and I know a lot of our school board members also went out and encouraged people to respond. The other thing that we had, and again similar to what Hamilton Southeastern did, is that for all of our student and teaching staff in particular, we carved out time during their school schedule so that they could complete it during the day. So our grades 6 through 12, it was somewhat easier, even because they have home rooms or whatever you want to call them at your particular districts. We had that time available, and all the principals agreed to utilize that to complete the Speak Up survey. So all of the teachers and all of the students completed it during that time, and we even had our individual classified staff and departments complete the survey as well, which provided some additional community input for those staff who are community members or parents. That helped our completion rate as well. So we're planning to do that again this year. I spoke to our assistant superintendent this morning, and he's planning to send out that notification. We have fall break next week, but the following week he's going to be sending out an automated notification letting folks know that the Speak Up survey is available again, and getting that ball rolling. So that's our approach. It's almost, and I know this sounds a little crazy, but it's almost throw anything at the wall and see what sticks, because as spread out as geographically as our district is, it's sometimes hard to get that feedback from community members and parents and participation. So Mary, you can move on to the next slide. So the real meat of it for us, and this is where I think the exciting things happen, is what were we able to do with the data that we got back. And so I've just included here again a number of bullet points of things that we're doing that we were able to leverage the data, the impact that it had. And some of these things we've already leveraged the data and are moving on, and then some of them are still in progress even from last year. So I'll just walk through them and comment a little bit. So the first bullet is a strategic plan. So our superintendent leveraged a lot of the input from the Speak Up survey data based on, what students are doing with technology at home and at school, and how they perceive technology being used in their classes to inform a strategic plan. So we now have a 5-year plan starting this year, 2016, going through 2021, of where we want to be in terms of classroom instruction. As a sister document, we're currently developing a technology strategic plan to sit side by side with that overall district strategic plan. And both of those are leveraging that Speak Up data for forward-looking programs. The second thing, and this has been an immediate impact for us, this year we are piloting e-learning days. And for this particular year, we are simply doing those e-learning days on site. So effectively our students will come in like it's a normal school day, but our teachers have crafted their lessons and their instruction to be completely virtual, completely online, completely accessible through the students' one-to-one device. And we're using this as a trial run for the following year, 2017-2018, in which we would like to be able to use e-learning days to, make up for weather cancellations, or also to allow us to offer additional professional development days while students are e-learning. But the Speak Up data was critical for informing how we approached both the instruction and what the students were comfortable with and what they knew how to do, but perhaps even more importantly, what kind of technology and internet access the students have at home. So our superintendent had gone around to the community and spoken to a lot of parents and had continued hearing concerns from the community and from teachers in the classroom that, hey, we have a fair number of students who don't have internet access. There are a number of parts of our school corporation that just simply don't have it, and they don't even have cellular coverage. So the Speak Up data actually put some hard numbers to that for us, and will allow us to plan more effectively on how to deliver internet access to those students on e-learning days, whether that's partnering with local organizations that can provide those students with the internet access, or providing cellular access on the buses, or looking at various options. And so part of the reason we're piloting these e-learning days is to feel out that Speak Up data and really figure out how to address it for the following year when we can actually fully implement the e-learning days. Related to that, as I mentioned, we're the next bullet down, a one-to-one computing initiative. We're a one-to-one district, and a lot of the Speak Up survey data pointed out the things that we were doing well in terms of e-learning and digital learning in the classroom, and the things that we weren't doing well. Just a couple examples without giving hard numbers from our district. We found that we're better than the state average and better than the national average even at our students consuming information through their devices. So researching articles, watching videos, gathering information and reading online texts and using their student information system on their device. So, that part we found is going very well. On the flip side, though, we've also found that we're not assigning a whole lot of activities that require our students to create something on their device, whether that's, write a paper, using an online word processing tool, whether it's create a video, whether it's create a slideshow, just any sort of demonstration of their knowledge is not being done as much. So it really highlighted the things that we're doing well in the classroom, the things that we need to work on, and that has really helped our building leaders target their professional development. We actually have early release every Wednesday, and so they have a brief hour training session with their building staff, and they were able to target that based on some of the Speak Up survey data. So that was really valuable for our team. The fourth bullet, curriculum planning, we're actually embarking on a new curriculum mapping initiative to move all of or as much of our curriculum as possible to be completely digital or online, whether that's using online textbooks or resources or simply apps or simply teacher-developed materials. I'm not directly involved with that, but that is just now starting, so we haven't dug into the Speak Up survey data yet to inform that planning, but it is starting later this month. The fifth bullet there, too, digital citizenship. This was also a finding or an initiative informed by the Speak Up survey data. So we also found that, due to the demographics of our district, a lot of parents and communities just did not have a whole lot of insight into social media or appropriate online behavior, citizenship, and things of that nature. And so due to that input from the Speak Up survey data, we embarked on a digital citizenship curriculum, and after some review and evaluation, we elected to simply go with the Common Sense Media certification process. And I know that I'm sure Mary's happy to hear that, because I know that the Department of Education, the e-learning division, has been encouraging that. But we found that to be a really strong curriculum, and that it's going to meet lots of our goals. And the Speak Up survey data and other anecdotal feedback from our community it really pushed our leadership team in that direction, and so far has been very successful. And then finally, and I alluded to this a little bit into what we're doing in the classroom, the Speak Up survey data has allowed our building principals to really hone in on certain instructional methods in their classrooms. So for me, in the Speak Up survey, this slide here, what are we doing with it? It's just, it's really invaluable to us helping our students learn and helping our teachers improve their instruction as best they can in our particular environment. And it helps us make more informed decisions to support them along that way. And I think that's just something that, you can't speak highly enough about that. So, Mary, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mike. I love that there was a lot of different, Mike and Susan didn't compare notes before today, and I love that they really shared a lot of different information. So it was good to hear from both of you. And also, I was excited to get, a really big district and then, a regular-sized district, a medium-sized district to talk to, the fact that this is doable at any size school district to really get your people to participate and get this data. So thank you for that, for sharing that. I've not seen questions come in. If anybody does have any questions, please feel free to share. And I wanted to throw it out to Julie, that if there was anything that you had to really skim over that you wanted to share, you could do that while we wait for a question or two. I will leave that up to you. Oh, here's a question. It came to me. If you do have any questions, make sure that you click on, or make sure you select everyone from the Send To drop-down. But Julie, somebody asked if this is available to private schools.
That's an excellent question, yes. The Speak Up surveys are available to every kind of school. So K-12, public schools, private schools, parochial schools, magnet schools, charter schools, virtual schools, alternative schools, vocational schools, In some states, we're actually having Speak Up is part of the program in juvenile detention schools. It is available to anyone that would like to use those surveys. So the more the merrier.
Excellent. Yep, and that's people probably think of that because we have funding that can only go to public schools. So sometimes there's that thought process that this is only for public. So excellent. Okay, Julie, I'll let you field. Do you see that question from? Oh, sorry, I'm jumping slides. Did you see the question?
So there's a couple different things here. Present this to my principals where to access these slides. Yes, of course, we'll send out the slides, or I'll send them to you, Mary. I saw an edit I want to make on one slide, Mary, so let us edit those, and then if you want to send them out to folks, we'll also have them on that Indiana page. So we also should probably send out that link to that special Speak Up page for Indiana, because we'll also have them there, and you can download them from there.
Perfect. Yep, and if I have any issues, if it's too big to send, then we can just you'll be able to get it from the website.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we did this, and I did go quickly through the slides, but as I told Mary, I wanted to make sure there was a complete set here. And these are the typical type of slides. I do a lot of presentations for superintendents, superintendent cabinets, groups of principals from districts. This is basically the slide deck that we use, so I think it's a good one for you to use. So I think Susan also had a question, Mary. Did you see that?
Yep, go ahead.
So we do a congressional briefing every year on the national findings and share that with members of Congress, their education staffers, the education associations, all the membership associations, as well as different federal agencies. Of course, the U.S. Department of Education, but quite often Commerce is part of our briefing, as well as Homeland Security, which is somewhat interesting. What sort of legislative response do we get? Well, that is an interesting question. So what we have found, and we're all family and friends here, so I'll be very candid with you, is that the members of Congress are actually particularly interested in the opinions of parents. That's because they view parents as pure voters, and so they are always very interested in, are parents interested in these topics? Are they accepting the idea of technology, or are they holding on to some old ideas? So quite often we will have folks that'll say to us, oh, I'm not sure that our parents are ready to give up on printed textbooks, for example. I think our parents in our district, our congressional district, want printed textbooks. And so it's very interesting when we show them the data, particularly from parents, that there is, in fact, a new generation of parents in our schools today. I'm sure you all know them. There are these new digital parents. They happen to be congregated, shall we say, right now in the elementary grades, but many of them have grown up with using technology themselves, and so they actually have very different expectations. And so that can be an eye-opening moment for members of Congress, same thing at the state legislative level, to be able to see that there is, this is not just something that's being pushed by the district or by a particular charismatic leader in the district or a school principal, that in fact parents are ready for it. So that's always very, very interesting. The legislators are also, and our data quite often informs different policy efforts, are also very interested in equity issues. And so every year, in addition to doing that briefing, we do special briefings and special sharing of the data. For example, last year with the FCC, as they were going through their thoughts about modernizing E-rate, and most recently about thinking about, which I think both Susan and Mike brought up, this idea of dealing with students that don't have access to the internet outside of school and how are we going to work through that. So we've actually been spending a lot of time up on the Hill here, and I'm actually coming to you today from Washington, D.C. I'm here on some meetings, talking about this quote-unquote homework gap and what needs to happen to be able to make sure that we are not creating inequitable educational opportunities for students because of a greater emphasis on digital learning. So lots of things that they're interested in. Hope that answers your question, Susan.
one question that I thought of while you were talking about the equity gap, I know that sometimes people will respond to the question, or kids, adults, I'm not sure which, both, the question, do you have internet access at home? And they say yes, even if it's just a cell phone with cell service. Is there a question or questions on the Speak Up survey that specifies, do you have, dial-up? Do people still dial-up? Do you have DSL? Do you have cable internet, Wi-Fi, whatever, versus do you just have internet on your cell phone?
You know, that's fascinating, Mary. We have always asked students and parents about home internet access. And yes, in the very early days being 2003 when we started Speak Up, it was more simplistic. Today it is much more of a sophisticated question, and in fact, the question has been totally reworked for this year's Speak Up, based on the fact that in addition to doing all this focus group work that we do, we also do evaluation studies for schools and districts around the impact of different types of digital initiatives. And one of the big takeaways from some of that work over the last couple of years is not only that internet access, the phrase, may mean different things to different people, but that also sometimes we're not asking, we, the collective education sector, are not asking the right questions about internet access. So I'll give you a little bit of a vignette story. I know that we don't have too much time, but I'll give you a little bit of a story here, which is, I think, demonstrative of this. So what we have found is that in addition to students, when you're asking students about having internet access at home, they may equate that the mom has a smartphone, and so I can look up my grades, or I could figure out if I have a test tomorrow. But then there may actually be a high-speed connection. There may be a laptop or some computers at home that students have access to. But in fact, they actually, in reality, don't have access because of contention. Increasingly, we're hearing from students and also from parents that there's high demand in the family home for using that computer or that connection, and that quite often students don't actually functionally have access. So it's not just anymore about have and have not. It's actually about the quality of the access, the regularity of the access, the consistency of that access, where that access is, whether that's a safe environment or not, all of those questions. And we have actually, over the last couple of years, been asking a lot more detailed questions on that. The old paradigm of do you have internet or you do not have internet is not as helpful to school district leaders as they're thinking through this issue as understanding some of these more nuanced responses. And so, good point, Mary. We do get into a lot of detail on that, and that's the type of information that will be highly valuable as people are thinking forward about their digital learning initiatives.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, it's hard to write a paper on a phone, but it's a little bit easier on a tablet, and it's a lot easier on a laptop. So very different things, and it is amazing how much it's changed, how much those, what we think of as little things, their details, have changed over the past few years of this survey. It's amazing.
Yeah. What a good group we have here today. Yeah, nice group.
Yes, great information, just a wide variety from all three of you. I'm not seeing any other questions come in. Is there any, like I said, Julie, is there anything that you really had to skim over that you wanted to touch in just another minute or two of detail, or do you feel good about what you shared today?
I think the only thing I want to reinforce, Marian, thank you for that prompt, is that this is our nonprofit mission. This is what we do. We're here to help you. We look at this as a service offering, and thus we have a very strong customer service orientation to all this. So we have a lot of information on our website. So if you're looking for, well, what do I say in an email that's going to go out to parents, or what am I going to say to put on the website about participation, Speak Up, all of that is already pre-drafted for you. Our intent is really to make this as easy as possible, knowing that every single one of you, every school and district leader has 12 more jobs that you're not getting to, and the data collection is important. As Susan told us, they needed data, but we want to make it easy for you to get that data, and so that's why we're doing this for you as a service. So please, there is no question to our staff that we haven't heard before or we haven't already come up with an answer or a solution for you. Please tap into the resources on our website, but don't be shy. Email us, call us, send us a tweet, whatever it might be, we're there to help you.
Excellent. Well, thanks a lot, Julie. And yes, the Speak Up folks are super helpful. We'll get answers to your questions. And like Julie said, it's all already there. They've already thought of, I would imagine, just about everything, if not everything, that you might need. So thank you for the information, Susan and Mike. Thank you a lot, too, for sharing what your schools have done, how you've used that data, how you've gotten people to participate, both before you were one-to-one and after you were one-to-one. I think that's another great point, that even if your school is already one-to-one, even if you feel like, why do we need the survey because we've already got devices in every kid's hands? Like Mike talked to, there's always more. There's always something else, there's always the next step that we want to get to. So using that data to justify what you've done and then to continue to move forward is a really important point to consider too. So thank you, all three of you, for this wonderful information. And I just want to end with ways to keep in contact with us. These are all of our channels of communication. Feel free to send questions to our office too. If you go to our webpage, at the bottom of all of our web pages is our contact information, the five of us who are in the office. You can contact any of us with questions and we will get them answered or direct you to the person who can answer them. So thanks to Julie and Mike and Susan, and thank you to the rest of you for joining us in the webinar today. And participate and speak up. Jump on there next week and get in the survey and have your voice heard and the voices of your students and teachers and administrators and community members. And thank you all very much. Have a great evening.